But he has no clothes on.
Welcome to Fairy Tales English Journey. Today we will explore a famous story about a very proud ruler. This tale teaches us about the danger of vanity and the importance of speaking the truth. Are you ready to learn English while enjoying a classic story? Let us begin our magical journey together right now. Have you ever agreed with someone just because everyone else did? It is very hard to be the only person to speak the truth. Sometimes people pretend to see things that are not there. They do this because they are afraid of looking foolish. This story shows exactly what happens when everyone decides to lie. Our story is called The Emperor and His New Clothes. It was written by Hans Christian Andersen many years ago. It remains one of the most famous fairy tales in the entire world. The lessons hidden inside this simple story are still very important for all of us today. Let us listen and learn together. Once upon a time in a beautiful kingdom there lived an emperor. This emperor did not care about his army or his people. He did not care about going to the theater or walking in the woods. He only cared about one thing in the whole world. He loved wearing beautiful new clothes every day. He had a different coat for every single hour of the day. Whenever people asked where the emperor was, they always got the same answer. The guards would say that the emperor was in his dressing room. He spent all his money on buying the most expensive fabrics and the most colorful silk threads. The kingdom was a very busy and happy place. Many strangers visited the capital city every single day. They came from lands far away to trade and see the beautiful sights. The emperor loved showing off his beautiful clothes to all the visitors. He thought he was the best-dressed man in the world. One day, two strangers arrived in the busy city. They were swindlers who wanted to trick the emperor and steal his money. They told everyone they were the greatest weavers in the world. They promised they could make the most beautiful cloth anyone had ever seen. The news spread very fast through the whole city. The swindlers claimed their cloth was very special. They said the colors and patterns were incredibly beautiful. But that was not the most amazing part. They said the clothes made from this cloth had a magical power. The clothes would be completely invisible to anyone who was stupid or unfit for their job. The emperor heard about these amazing weavers very quickly. He thought this magical cloth would be perfect for him. If he wore clothes made of this cloth, he could find out who was stupid. He could discover which of his ministers were unfit for their important jobs. He wanted this magical cloth right away. The emperor gave the two swindlers a large amount of gold. He told them to start weaving the magical cloth immediately. The swindlers set up two large looms in a special room. They pretended to work very hard, but there was absolutely nothing on the looms. They were moving their hands in the empty air. The swindlers asked for the finest silk and the purest gold thread. The emperor gave them everything they asked for without any question. The swindlers put the expensive silk and gold into their own bags. They continued to work at the empty looms late into the night. They wanted everyone to think they were busy. The emperor wondered how the weavers were doing. He wanted to see the beautiful magical cloth for himself. But he remembered that anyone who was stupid could not see it. He felt a little nervous about going into the room. He decided to send his oldest and wisest minister to look at the beautiful cloth. The emperor knew his old minister was very clever. He was sure the minister was perfect for his important job. The good old minister went into the room where the swindlers were working. He opened his eyes very wide when he saw the empty looms. He could not see any cloth at all anywhere. The old minister felt a cold sweat on his face. He thought to himself that this was a terrible disaster. Does this mean I am stupid or unfit for my job? He decided he must never tell anyone that he could not see the cloth. He kept his eyes wide open and stayed very quiet. The swindlers politely asked the old minister to come closer. They pointed to the empty looms and asked him if he liked the colors. They asked him if the pattern was beautiful enough for the emperor. The poor old minister looked and looked, but he saw nothing. There was nothing there to see at all. The minister was very afraid of losing his important job. He decided to lie to the swindlers and to the emperor. He said the cloth was absolutely beautiful and very charming. He praised the lovely colors and the wonderful pattern. He promised to tell the emperor that he was very happy with the amazing work. The swindlers were very happy to hear the minister lie. They asked for more money and more gold thread to finish the work. They put all the new gold and silk into their own pockets. They went back to pretending to weave on the empty looms. The old minister went back to the palace immediately. The old minister told the emperor exactly what the swindlers wanted. He described the beautiful colors and the complicated patterns in great detail. The emperor was very pleased to hear this good news. He thought his money was being spent very well. He waited a few more days and then sent another honest official. The second official went to the room to check on the weavers. He looked at the first loom and then at the second loom. He saw exactly what the old minister had seen. He saw absolutely nothing because there was nothing there. He rubbed his eyes, but the looms were still completely empty and bare. The swindlers asked the second official if he liked the beautiful cloth. They explained the imaginary patterns and pointed to the empty air. The official knew he was not a stupid man. He realized he must be unfit for his good job. He felt very frightened and decided he must hide this terrible secret immediately. The second official smiled and praised the cloth he could not see. He told the swindlers that the colors were perfect for the emperor. He returned to the palace and told everyone about the wonderful fabric. The whole city was talking about the magical cloth. Everyone wanted to know who was stupid and unfit. Finally, the emperor decided he must see the cloth himself. He chose a group of his most important officials to go with him. The two men who had already visited the weavers were in the group. They walked together to the room where the swindlers were working. The swindlers were pretending to weave very fast. The two officials who had been there before spoke up quickly. They pointed at the empty looms and praised the beautiful design. They thought everyone else could see the magical cloth perfectly well. The emperor looked at the empty looms and felt his heart stop. He could not see anything at all on the machines. The emperor panicked and thought this was the worst day ever. Am I a stupid man, or am I unfit to be the emperor? This was the most terrible thing that could ever happen to him. He decided he must pretend to see the cloth just like his officials. He smiled broadly and nodded his head. The emperor said the cloth was the most beautiful thing ever made. All the officials in the room looked very closely at the empty looms. None of them could see anything, but they all agreed with the emperor. They advised the emperor to wear clothes made from this cloth in the next big parade. The emperor gave the swindlers a special medal to wear. He gave them the title of Royal Weavers to honor their work. The swindlers stayed up all night before the big parade. They burned 16 candles so everyone could see how hard they were working. They pretended to take the magical cloth off the looms. The swindlers used large scissors to cut the empty air. They sewed the invisible pieces together with needles that had no thread. Finally, they announced that the emperor's new clothes were completely ready. The emperor came to the room with his most important noblemen. The swindlers held up their empty hands to show the clothes. The swindlers said these were the trousers and this was the coat. They said the clothes were as light as a spiderweb. They told the emperor he would feel like he was wearing nothing at all. They said that was the true magic of this wonderful cloth. The noblemen all nodded and agreed completely. The swindlers asked the emperor to take off his regular clothes. They offered to help him put on the magical new clothes. The emperor took off all his clothes and stood in front of the mirror. The swindlers pretended to hand him each piece of the new outfit. The emperor turned around to admire himself. The emperor looked in the mirror and saw his own bare body. He twisted and turned to show off his imaginary new coat. The noblemen whispered about how perfectly the new clothes fit him. They praised the wonderful colors and the elegant style. No one wanted to admit they could only see the bare emperor. The master of ceremonies announced that the royal canopy was ready. The canopy would be held over the emperor during the grand parade. The emperor said he was completely ready to go outside. He looked in the mirror one last time to admire his magical suit. He wanted everyone to think he saw the beautiful clothes. The noblemen who were supposed to carry the long train bent down. They pretended to pick up the fabric from the floor. They held their hands high in the air as they walked. They did not dare to let anyone know they were holding nothing. The grand parade began with the emperor walking very proudly. The emperor marched through the streets of his beautiful capital city. People lined the streets and looked out of their open windows. Everyone had heard about the magical power of the new clothes. Nobody wanted to be called stupid or unfit for their job, so everyone pretended to see the beautiful fabric shining in the sun. The crowds cheered and shouted praises for the emperor and his clothes. They said the coat was magnificent and the train was very elegant. Never before had the emperor worn such a successful outfit. People clapped their hands and smiled at the empty air. The whole city joined together in this massive, invisible lie. The emperor was very happy with the reaction of his loyal people. He walked taller and prouder than he ever had before. He truly believed he was wearing the most magnificent clothes in history. He ignored the cold breeze against his bare skin. His vanity made him blind to the reality of his silly situation. Suddenly, a small voice broke through the loud cheering of the crowd. A little child was watching the parade from the front row. The child pointed a small finger right at the proud emperor. The child spoke very loudly and clearly for everyone to hear. The child said that the emperor was not wearing any clothes. The father of the child tried to quiet the little one down. He told the people around them to ignore the innocent child. But the words of the child had already reached the ears of the crowd. People started to whisper the child's words to their neighbors. The truth began to spread like a wildfire. One person whispered to another that the emperor was wearing nothing. Soon, the whole crowd was shouting the exact same thing. They all yelled that the emperor had absolutely no clothes on at all. The magical spell of the swindlers was finally broken by a simple truth. The people stopped pretending and started to laugh loudly. The emperor heard the crowd laughing and felt a terrible chill. He realized that the people were completely right about his clothes. He knew he had been tricked by the swindlers and his own pride. He felt more foolish than he had ever felt in his entire life. But he knew the parade must continue anyway. The emperor decided he had to finish what he had started. He stood up even straighter and walked with even more pride. The noblemen walking behind him continued to carry the invisible train. They held their hands up high and marched solemnly forward. The parade finished with the emperor walking naked through his own city. When the emperor returned to the palace, the swindlers were completely gone. They had taken all the gold and the expensive silk thread. They left the emperor with nothing but empty looms and a bruised ego. The emperor finally understood the heavy price of his foolish vanity. He promised himself he would change his silly ways. The emperor realized that true leadership was not about wearing fancy clothes. It was about taking care of his people and his beautiful kingdom. He started to spend his time working with his ministers and generals. He never again trusted people who used empty words to flatter him. The kingdom became a much better place. The story of the emperor and his invisible clothes spread far away. Parents told the story to their children every single night. Teachers shared the tale with their students in the local schools. The story became a famous legend about the dangers of pride. Everyone learned a valuable lesson from the foolish ruler that day. Now let us talk about the important lessons in this classic story. The first lesson is about the danger of vanity and excessive pride. The emperor cared so much about his appearance that he became blind. His vanity allowed the clever swindlers to trick him very easily. We must never let pride control our daily decisions. The second lesson is about the courage to speak the absolute truth. All the adults in the story were afraid of looking stupid. They chose to lie instead of saying what they actually saw. Only the little child had the bravery to speak the simple truth. We should always try to be like that honest child. It is very easy to agree with the crowd to avoid trouble. Peer pressure can make us do and say very foolish things. We must learn to trust our own eyes and our own minds. If something is not right, we must have the courage to say so. Honesty is always the best policy in life. The swindlers in the story represent people who use our fears against us. They knew the emperor and his ministers were afraid of looking foolish. They used this fear to steal gold and silk from the royal palace. We must be careful of people who try to manipulate our feelings. We must always think very clearly. Learning English through fairy tales is a very wonderful and fun experience. These stories use simple words to explain very deep and complex ideas. As you practice your listening skills, you also learn valuable life lessons. We hope you enjoyed exploring this classic tale with us today. Keep practicing your English every single day with joy. Thank you for watching Fairy Tales English Journey with us today. If you liked this story, please share it with your family and friends. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel for more magical stories. Leave a comment below and tell us your favorite part of the tale. We will see you in the next video. Remember that true beauty comes from honesty and a very good heart. Never be afraid to speak the truth even when it is difficult. Keep learning and keep growing on your English language journey. Have a wonderful day filled with magic and joy and happiness. Goodbye for now, and see you very soon, my dear friends.